The purpose of this video is to provide an overview of F4Tech's SilvAssist Mobile software. I will walk through the entire application, demonstrating the features and functions and general workflows present. This video will show screens on an Android tablet, but an Apple iOS device is very similar in look and function. SilvAssist Mobile will work equally well on a phone as it does a tablet, so you have many options for device selections. Let's get started. SilvAssist Mobile can be found as a free download in the Google Play Store or Apple App Store. Search for SilvAssist Mobile and download the app. Once SilvAssist Mobile has been downloaded, find it on your device and tap the icon to launch it. On initial installation, you'll be prompted to log in. To do so, ensure you're connected to the internet and then enter the username and password as provided to you in the email that was sent upon your account's creation. If you've changed your password, make sure that you're using that new password here. Below the password field is a selection menu from which you can choose a SilvAssist server. For most users, the default server of SilvAssist should be kept as a selection unless you are otherwise instructed to change it. Click the Login button to proceed into the app. SilvAssist Mobile has an intuitive and easy-to-use interface. The app consists of 4 main pages: Settings, Cruise, Projects, and Logout/Login. You can switch between pages using the main menu by tapping on the icon in the upper left corner of the screen and then tapping on the page that you'd like to view. We'll go through these one by one, starting with the Settings page. On the Settings page, you can find identifying information such as the date of install and last update and the current version of the app. There are also some configurable options that you can choose here. The display mode is a choice between 3 options: Auto Rotate, Always Portrait, or Always Landscape. This setting will overwrite the current screen rotation setting of your device. Depending on this setting, SilvAssist will rotate the screen accordingly. This can be useful on data collection templates with many columns. Navigation units. Navigation units is a choice between 3 options: feet, meters, and chains. This setting determines the units that are displayed in the navigation pane when you're on the map page. Autofill species. This is a toggle switch where an orange icon indicates that this setting is active. Autofill species is a setting that's intended to simplify data collection by automatically filling in the species value of a tree record based on the tree record above it in the grid. This is particularly useful in plantations where all or most species in a plot are the same. We'll see an example of this when we get to the data collection. Plot selection buffer tolerance. This setting adjusts the sensitivity of selection when selecting a plot on the map screen to navigate to. The further the slider bar is to the right, the more sensitive the selection tolerance. If your device has a smaller screen size with high DPI, or you find yourself having trouble accurately selecting a plot in the map to navigate to, you may need to adjust this to a higher or lower value. The next item in the menu is the Cruise page, but we're going to skip that for the moment and go to the Projects page. The Projects page is where all Cruise projects that have been assigned to your user account will appear. These projects are arranged as cells in a grid. Available projects may vary from user to user depending on how they've been assigned. Contact your administrator if you're missing a project that you think you should have access to. The Projects page serves 2 purposes: 1. Refreshing project replicas, and 2. Downloading project replicas. Refreshing project replicas is an important way to receive updates that may have been applied to a Cruise template. At times, you may be told that you should, quote, refresh your projects. This is needed when there's been a change to the template, such as an updated error check, column changes in your data entry screen, or pick list changes. Refreshing projects in this manner on the Projects page will refresh all projects. Individual projects may also be refreshed during the sync process. You will need to be connected to the internet to refresh the projects. To do so, press your finger on the top half of the screen and drag it down towards the bottom of the screen. You'll see a circular icon appear, and if you let go, that icon will spin. When the process is complete, you'll see a notification that says your project list is refreshed, and the screen will flash. Next is downloading projects. In order to prepare your device for offline data collection, you must first download a project. To download a project, simply come to the projects page, find the project that you need, tap on it while connected to the internet, and confirm that you want to download. Once you hit OK, you'll see a spinning indicator showing that the app is currently processing your request. At first, you'll see a generating replica icon that pops up. What this is doing is submitting your request to the GIS server. It's preparing the offline version of this project, which will include any stands, plots, or property boundaries that are part of that project and also assigned to your user. And it's also going to download any of the template settings, again, such as the columns or pick list. Once that process is complete, you'll see a message that says downloading replica, and then you'll get a pop-up that says success. Your project replica has been downloaded. Click OK. Go return to the cruise page, and now you'll see your project that you downloaded. When you launch SilvAssist Mobile for the very first time, you'll immediately be brought to the projects page because you don't have any projects downloaded for offline use. Any subsequent opening of SilvAssist Mobile will bring you to the cruise page. The cruise page is where projects, also known as replicas, have been displayed after they've been downloaded for offline use in the field. If you haven't downloaded a project yet, the cruise page will appear blank. Cruise projects are displayed in a grid with thumbnail previews above the project name. Tapping on a project will open the project and you can begin work. Each project in the grid has a context menu in the upper right corner. This menu has two options, delete and sync. When projects have been completed or are no longer active, you may wish to remove the project from your cruise screen. Clicking the delete button will delete the offline replica from the screen and from your device. This will not affect anything on the server or on anybody else's tablet or phone. This is purely removing the replica from your device. You will be asked to confirm your deletion when the button is clicked. The app will also notify you if you have unsynchronized data for the project you've selected. Make sure your project is synchronized before deletion. It's much harder to recover data past this point. Data synchronization, or pressing the sync button, is how your offline data is transferred to the server for storage and data processing. Syncing also delivers updated data from the server and is how you will see the plots taken by other cruisers, as well as being able to audit other cruisers' plots. Syncing will also update the replica for any changes that may have occurred in the data template, such as a change to the pick list, a new error check, or a new column added for data collection. Syncing is an easy one-button process. All you have to do is ensure that you have a strong internet connection, open this menu, and click Sync. The indicator will then appear. You will see a message that says beginning sync. This is usually a quick process, but it can vary based on the amount of data being transferred to and from the server. This busy indicator will spin until the process is complete. When the process is complete, you'll see a message on the screen that confirms the project has been successfully synchronized. As a best practice, synchronization should be completed by each cruiser at the end of every day, and then again before starting the next day. This will allow data to be processed on the server for display in the Inventory Project Manager, as well as enabling field users to see where others have been working in close proximity. For example, once everybody syncs at the end of the day, if you then sync again, you'll be able to see where the rest of the cruise crew has been on that project. To actually begin collecting data in the field, find your project on the cruise page, tap on it, and the cruise settings page will open. The cruise settings page is unique for every project. At the top of the screen, you can see the project name that you've selected. Below that is an auditor toggle switch, where you can enable auditing mode if you choose to. If you turn it off, you're collecting data for the first time. You can choose your cruiser initials from the drop-down list. At the bottom of the screen, you'll see a date and time of last sync, and then you'll see a brief summary of the plots in this particular project. Project Summary shows an overview of the entire project, how many total plots, plots visited, unvisited, audited, and dropped. And then on the right, you can see plots per cruiser, so you can see how many plots each cruiser has collected. Two buttons on this page as well, Cruise and Mapping. The Mapping button may not appear if that setting has not been enabled in the Inventory Manager. We'll go over the mapping page in a little while. To continue on and to collect inventory data, simply press the Cruise button and you'll be brought into the map. Cruise map screen is where you'll select plots to navigate to or edit. The map screen can also be used to review inventory progress or view aerial imagery, stands, and other reference layers. Operation of the map view is through familiar touch and drag panning and pinch to zoom actions like other mainstream map or navigation applications. The Cruise Map screen has the name of the project at the top of the screen in the header bar. To the left of the project name is a back arrow that will take you back to the cruise page. To the right of the project name are a series of buttons with different functions. The first icon is another sync button. Pressing this button will perform the same synchronization process as the sync button on the cruise page. It's provided here as another convenient location. The next button is a toggle for recentering mode. Currently, this is off. If I tap that button, you'll see the icon changes to a crosshair and my current location is centered on the map. I can zoom in and out. However, I cannot pan around the map. If you were to begin walking, the current location indicated by the blue circle will remain in the center of the map. And you can see at the bottom, nav mode center on location appears. If you tap the crosshairs again, it turns off, nav mode returns to pan, and I can move the map around. During navigation to a plot, recenter mode is applied automatically. The next icon is a pin drop. This may or may not appear in your map depending on how the template is configured. Tapping this icon will allow you to add a plot at your current GPS location. Tapping that will bring up the screen. If you hit continue, then a data entry window will open and you can collect plot data. The next icon is one that won't be seen too frequently, but it's available here for demonstration purposes. This is called Big Nav. Again, this is a setting that can be applied at the template level. When it's active and enabled, it will allow you to visit plots without actually being at the location. We use this for testing or demonstration purposes. In most cases, this will not be present because you must visit the plot to collect the data. Green means that it's enabled. Red means that it's turned off. The final button in the top row is the Layer Visibility menu. Tapping this will show you a list of all of the layers present in the map. You can turn them on or off based on what you need to see. This does not affect data collection in any way, it just affects how they are displayed in the map. Moving down from the layer visibility icon, we have 4 more icons. The first is a compass symbol that shows you the direction that the map is currently oriented, with red being the north. If you'd like to return the map to north up, simply tap on that. The map rotates and north is up again. The next icon down is the home icon. Tapping this icon will zoom the map to the full extent of all plots in this project. The button below that is to return to the previous extent. So if I tap this button, I zoom out to where I was viewing previously. This is helpful if you are panning around the map and need to return to your previous view, or if you accidentally tap it and swipe it accidentally, tap that button, it returns to what you were just looking at. The last icon here is the routing tool, represented by the car symbol. The routing tool allows you to select a spot on the map and open the corresponding coordinates in the default navigation app on your device, Google Maps on Android or Apple Maps on iOS. Simply center the map on the location you wish to drive to and tap the car icon. A prompt will appear that you should tap anywhere on the map. Tap on the map where you wish to navigate to, and the default map application will open with those coordinates as the location of interest. You can then use this to navigate to an unfamiliar track via highways and familiar directions. Finally, the last tool we have here in the map view is the sketch tool. Down in the lower left-hand corner, if I tap the sketch button, I am then able to tap on the screen and draw some markup. If I hit done, this will persist on the screen as long as I'm in the map view. I could also take a screenshot and send it to a colleague or save it for myself. But once you back out of the map to the cruise screen, this sketch will go away. If I want to clear this, I tap the sketch button again and tap clear, and now my markup is gone. Now you probably noticed that my map has aerial imagery in the background. This is because I opened it while still connected to Wi-Fi. Our application will allow you to cache the image by zooming in to your area where you plan on working and zooming out while still connected to Wi-Fi. Now I can turn off my Wi-Fi and my image will persist. This will stay in the map as long as I do not go back out to the cruise settings or the cruise page. You can still go and collect plots, go into the data entry screen, but as soon as you click the back button or close the app, you'll be notified with this message here. Are you sure you want to exit the map? Cached base map imagery for offline use will be lost if you exit. So if I say exit map, I'm returned to the cruise settings page. If I press cruise again, I'm returned to the map, but now I have a white background. You can still collect data this way, no problem. You just won't have the aerial imagery provided. Now you could have a persistent offline aerial imagery by using what's called a TPK. Esri's TPKs or tile packages can be created that has the aerial imagery or any other reference data as a layer embedded within it. This TPK then gets created via ArcGIS Pro, ArcMap, or Esri has a tool called the Tile Package Creator. Once you generate this TPK file, you can sideload that to your device, put it into the device folder, and then the aerial imagery and whatever background information you provided would be displayed in the map regardless of your data connection with no need to cache it up front. You can find more information on TPKs in our user manual. In order to collect data, you have to navigate to a plot. To select a plot for navigation, zoom into your map and tap on the plot that you'd like to navigate to. Here you have three options. Return to map, which will return you back to the map without any selection. Navigate and drop plot. Drop plot will allow you to mark the plot as dropped in the event that you do not want to or cannot take that plot. If you select drop plot, you have to provide a justification for dropping that plot. So we'll just say that it's wet. I'll confirm, and the plot has been dropped. You'll see that the symbology of the plot itself has now turned to a red X instead of the orange triangle that it was. I'll select another plot and we'll select Navigate instead. So when we're in navigation mode, you'll see a few things changed. There's now a red hashed line from my current location to the plot. The map has turned into recenter mode. And the compass interface has appeared at the bottom of the screen. Within the compass, we have identifying information like the plot we have selected and what stand it's in. And then we have our distance from that plot. The units here are those units that were in the settings page for navigation units. So we're at feet. Then we have our bearing and our heading. Now, if you look at the compass image, you'll notice that we have two lines. One is blue and one is red. The red line has a yellow circle that represents the plot location. The red line corresponds to the bearing, and the blue line corresponds to the heading. The concept here is to make these two line up. And so as you start walking towards that plot or away from it, these lines will start rotating around the compass depending on your current bearing and then the heading to the plot. If these line up, you know you're heading in the right direction. As you get closer, the distance will drop. If you get farther away, the distance will increase. You can tap on the compass to bring up a full-size view. Tap the compass again to go split screen. Once you're within the distance threshold as specified in the template settings, you'll hear an audible notification and a message will appear on the screen that says you've arrived at your plot. Are you ready to edit? At this point, you can click confirm and the data entry page will open, allowing you to take plot data. Plots are symbolized in the map based on their status. Orange triangle indicates an unvisited plot. A blue circle indicates a visited plot. A black square is an audit, and a red X is a drop plot. Plots are also often labeled, either with plot ID, cruiser ID, or both. Although you must navigate to an unvisited plot to collect data, when plots have already been visited and are shown as blue, you can tap on that plot, click Edit Plot, and modify the plot data without having to re-navigate to that plot. When you arrive on plot and start editing, you'll be on the data entry screen. Data entry is categorized in different tabs that represent different nested subplot categories where data will be collected. Tap on the tab to switch between them. Available tabs will depend on how the inventory template was configured in the Inventory Project Manager. The Plot tab will always be shown. We are currently on the Plot tab. At the bottom of each tab will be a Save and Return to Map button. Pressing the Save button will run the data error checks, and if your data is valid, will return you to the map. Pressing the Return to Map button will return you to the map immediately if you've not entered any data. If you have entered data and press the Return to Map button, you'll see a window alerting you to that fact that there's unsaved data. Pressing Cancel returns you to the data entry screen. Pressing Continue will discard your edits and return you to the map. The Plot tab is the first tab you'll see when you arrive on plot. This tab contains helpful identification information for the plot, such as stand ID, plot ID, and various plot sizes. The Plot tab also has a comment field that can be used to enter text comments using the device's keyboard. Tap on the entry line to bring up the keyboard and type in whatever you need to type. Other plot level data points may also be present here in the plot tab, such as whether or not a particular subplot is a no-tally plot, land use, etc. The plot tab is organized as a list of attributes, starting at the top, moving to bottom. The other data entry tabs like reproduction, or repro in this case, midstory or submerge, and overstory or tree all have a similar format. They're arranged in a grid with columns and rows. Each column is a different data category, and each row is a new tree record. Each tab may have varying levels of data that is required. For example, repro is simply a species and account with a comment, while tree records species, DBH, product, total height, etc. To add a new tree record or row in your grid, tap in the blank empty space to add a new row. There will always be a blank or null row at the bottom. You can tap multiple times to add multiple trees. You'll notice as rows are added, we also have the tree numbered here. We also have a summary of our total count of trees on plot, this particular subplot, at the bottom of the screen. From here, you tap in each cell to populate the data as needed. Data can be entered in several different ways. Here we have a coded value domain pick list where we have the species code at the front end followed by the common name. You'll notice that only the code is placed in the grid. We also have the ability to type in a free-form numeric value. We may also have default values. So for product, AA, our auto assign, is our default product. We can change default products to another product as necessary. And so on. You can see we have other domains present. And we even have a comment field here where we can type in any comment we need. If log grades are enabled as a setting in the project, you'll also see this column that says logs for each tree. If you click on the ellipsis there, it opens up another grid where you can record your tree segments. This operates in the same manner as the rest of the tree grid. Here I've added some data. I'll also demonstrate how autofill species setting works. Notice how I had an HHD tree here, added a new row, added a new row, added another row, and it's carried that species over from the row above it. If I change this last one to something different, add a row, it will carry on and continue auto-filling that species that was directly above it. If I need to delete trees, I can click on the trash can icon there and confirm. You'll also notice at the top of each tab we have the plot size present and the plot ID. If the plot is a fixed radius plot, we also have that plot radius displayed. If the tree is a variable radius plot, the limiting distance calculator will become available. Tap on this to expand the pane. The basal area factor automatically is assigned based on what's this plot. You can either manually type in a DBH to get the limiting distance, or you can tap in the cell DBH for a particular tree and see what that limiting distance is there. You can just leave this pane open, and every time you type in a DBH, you'll see what that distance is. If you don't need it, you can collapse it. Also at the top of the tab, you have the reorder icon. If we enable reordering, that icon turns blue by tapping on it, and you can see our trash cans have turned into these handles. I can tap on the tree that I need to move, drag it to the new position, and let go. You can't edit any data when reordering mode is selected. You can only reorder. So I'll tap that. It's now black again, and you can see my tree is now, this HHD is now in space number 2. I've intentionally applied some bogus data here to demonstrate how error checks work. Error checks are pre-configured at the template level within the Inventory Project Manager and are automatically downloaded to your device with the project template. Error checks are run when you click Save Plot, and there are 2 types of error checks: hard error checks and soft error checks. There's also required fields, which is a version of a hard error check. A hard error check will not let you save the plot without changing and addressing that invalid data point. A soft error check serves as a warning or a reminder to double check your data point because it falls outside of expected bounds. So I have a few set up here to demonstrate. Let's see what happens. In this scenario, I'm satisfied with my plot collection, my data collection. I'll click Save Plot, and my error checks will run. Now, the first item that pops up is a warning that says THT, or total height in this case, is greater than 120. So if you see here, my first tree record, THT has a value of 150, greater than 120, so it triggered this error. On a soft error, I have 2 options: fix or keep. If I click fix, it will take me back to the grid where I can modify that value. Or if I click keep, it'll continue on to the next check. I have another warning: DBH greater than 50. Again, this is a soft check. If you look at my third tree, it has a value of 146. In this case, I meant to put 14.6. So it alerted me that I have, there could be a tree that's greater than 50, but it's atypical for my scenario. So I put a warning on here to alert me to that fact if there's any that are fall outside of that range. So this one I need to fix. I'll hit fix. I'll come over here and tap in my cell, 14.6, hit done, and then I'll click Save Plot again. Now my soft error checks will keep showing up if they still triggered. So as long as I'm satisfied with what this is referring to, I'm okay with the value, I'll click keep. And then here is an example of a hard error check. This literally says error, and this one reads THT, or total height, must be greater than sawwood height. So if you look at my tree number 2, I have a total height of 35 and a saw height of 65. Well, in this scenario, I meant to type 95, not 35. That was a fat finger mistake. But because I had this error check, I literally cannot save this plot. I must hit OK. This is another warning, basically stating the same thing for this particular template. And it will take me back to the grid. If I don't change this value here, or this value here, or delete this tree altogether, that error will continue to fire until the end of time. So I'm going to change that. I'll hit Save Plot. I'm going to keep because that's the same message that I've already seen. And then once all of the data has been validated, you see the message that says plot saved. Your plot data has been saved. Now you can click Edit Plot here and return right back into the grid, or you can click Return to Map, bring you back to the map page where you can see that your symbology has changed to a blue dot. Enabled in the project template setup in the Inventory Project Manager, some projects may have the mapping button shown. Tapping the mapping button will bring you into a different map interface where you can allocate plots and also change plot sizes. Initially, the interface is very similar to the main map page. The buttons along the top are familiar with the addition of two new items: the grid representing the plot allocator and the circle with the radius symbol representing changing plot sizes. In addition to those two new symbols, we still have recenter mode, the sync button, layer view, rotate the map, home, and back. To begin, we'll start with plot allocation. I've zoomed my map here to the stand that I'd like to allocate a plot grid into. In order to do so, I must first enable the plot allocator by tapping on the grid icon at the top of the screen. You'll see a pop-up that says plot allocation enabled, and you can select your stand by tapping on that particular stand. You can see my selected stand is highlighted in blue, and we have a new pane at the top of the screen. This pane is where we'll enter our grid settings and allocation parameters. To begin with, we'll define our X and Y spacing. This spacing is based on the spacing unit here, which can be in chains, meters, or feet. I'll select chains. For algorithm, the only option is regular. This may be added to in the future, so you can leave that by default. Azimuth is going to be the rotation in degrees of our grid. So for this one, I'm going to place it at a 45 degree. Buffer is the distance off of the boundary of your polygon into the interior of the stand to space the plot grid. This is in meters always, maximum of 10 meters, which is roughly half a chain. So the top half of this window pertains to the grid configuration itself. The bottom half is our plot sizes and our plot types. The selections available here are defined in the project template. We must fill out all of these before we can actually allocate the grid. So for merge type, I only have one option here, variable radius. Submerge type, one option, variable radius. And then repro type is fixed radius and ground type is fixed radius. Repro type and ground type are always going to be fixed radius, but submerge type and merge type could also be fixed radius. This particular project doesn't have fixed radius available for submerge or merge, but if it was, it would be an option here as well. I could choose between variable or fixed. So once I have my plot types selected here, I go to the second column and define my plot sizes. So my merge size, because I selected variable radius, I have to choose my basal area factor here. Submerge will do the same. If this had been fixed radius selected on this side, these would be fixed radius plot sizes as configured. Repro size, we have one option available, and ground size, we have two options available. Once we have everything filled out as desired, the Run button will appear. I can tap that, and my plot grid will allocate. You can see at the bottom it says finished allocating, 32 plots allocated. It also says that at the top under the status. Now I should note that all of this can be done while entirely offline. So when the grid is blue like this, that's simply a preview, temporary preview showing me where this particular parameter settings allocated the grid. If I don't like this, I can change this, change a parameter like azimuth. I'll change that to 90 and I'll click run again. and you'll see my grid is then reallocated and put on the plot on the stand. If I like this, I can click Save, saving plots, plot saved, and now my grid has turned to the orange triangles, indicating that they're unvisited plots. At this point, I can return to the cruise page, go into my cruise project, navigate to these plots, and collect data in this template, all while entirely offline. When you finish your data collection, once you sync all of these plots, all of the data will be synchronized up to this server. You can also reallocate a grid for plots that have already been applied, as long as they are unvisited. So to do so, you would just select that. I will just put in my parameters here again, change this back to 45. I'll select my plot sizes. And click Run. And you can see my temporary grid is overlaid my existing grid. So if I'm satisfied with changing this, I'll hit Save again. And I'll be prompted with a warning asking me to confirm. So if I say confirm here, it will overwrite my existing plots and then apply the new grid. If there's at least one visited plot in this stand, I will not be able to allocate a new grid. The second tool on the mapping page is a tool to resize your plots. Similar to the plot allocator, you'll enable this by clicking on the circle icon with the radius depiction. Plot size update enabled. This will allow you to change the plot size of all plots within a single stand, all at one time. So to do so, I will select that stand, and you can see at the bottom I have the current values. So these are the values that are currently applied to this stand, both type and size. So if I don't like that and I need to change everything, I can do so here. Now you must fill out everything before the update button appears, regardless of if you're changing it or not. So you could keep these the same. You would just still need to fill it out entirely. I'll hit update. It says updating plots. Finish updating plots. Now, if I tap my stand again, you can see the current values here are those that I changed to. Again, this can be done entirely offline. At this point now, I would click the back button, go into my cruise, my plots are visible on the screen. So you can see here now I'm in the plot. Here are my plot sizes that I just assigned. The plot ID is automatically assigned this long unique ID. We must have this style of ID because we have to ensure uniqueness. This can be changed later on when data is synced up, or it could also be changed if you had an alternate org plot ID field available here to add a new plot ID. By utilizing a properly configured ArcGIS Online web map, you can use ArcGIS Field Maps application to send a stand polygon directly to a SilvAssist mobile project entirely offline via a quick button link. Once the stand is imported, you can then use the plot allocator to apply a plot grid to this polygon. From there, you can go straight in and collect data, all while being entirely offline. To begin, make sure that F4Tech has provided you or your organization with the proper configuration for the web map, or else this will not work. You should also have the project that you want to copy the stand into already downloaded in SilvAssist. So in field maps, draw your stand feature by either using the GPS to follow your track or draw it by manually adding vertices in the map. I already have one here. I'll select it. You can see here we have a button that says Send to SilvAssist. Tap the button below to send the stand to SilvAssist Mobile. We have a few items to fix first. When using app linking, you must apply a stand ID, and that stand ID must be unique for the project you're importing into. If you don't have a unique stand ID, you'll get an error message during the import process in SilvAssist that says stand ID already exists. Please return to field maps, change it, and try again. So we'll need to make sure we have a unique stand ID. I'm going to scroll down here in the attributes table. You can fill all of these out or none of these, but again, you must have stand ID. So I'm just going to put in a unique ID there. In addition, this particular map is set up to have required a property field as well. Your map may not do this because property can be selected once we import, but I've selected a property here. And then project ID is currently showing as no value. That can also be applied here, but it's also a setting that will be selected in SilvAssist. So I'm going to go ahead and save my edits now that I have a unique stand ID. I'm going to tap the Send to SilvAssist button to send this polygon to SilvAssist. One button press, SilvAssist automatically opens up, and I'm greeted with the Import Stand dialog. You can see here it says Stand. There's my stand ID. Select the target project to continue. This is a drop-down list that contains the projects that I have downloaded. So you can see I have 2 projects here on my cruise page. Here are the 2 that are available for me to select. And then select target property to continue. So this actually found the property that I selected in field maps that I input. But I could come in here and change this if I needed to. Or if I left it blank in field maps, I would need to select it here. So once you're satisfied with those 2 values, I'll click Import. You may see this item, this notification pop up here. It says project ID does not match with the selected project. Overwrite project ID and import to the selected project. As long as you're confirming that, yes, I want to import this into that particular project, you can click Confirm. As I press Import, the application automatically opens up the mapping page, and you can see my stand there. Now, we're not finished yet. Do you want to import the following stand at the top? So from here, I can review any attributes that I applied. And if I'm satisfied with my geometry and these attributes, I can click Yes. You see stand imported. Now my stand is labeled with an ID, and that stand has been applied to this project's database. Now, if I'd like to allocate plots, we'll follow the same procedure as before. I'll enable plot allocation. I'll tap on the stand. I'll provide some quick parameters. Save my plots. And now, if I go back to my cruise page, here's my stand with all those plots ready to collect data. This entire workflow was completed entirely offline. And as with the other plot allocation, strictly using the mapping page, once I sync, my stand that I collected, my plot grid, and any plot data that I collected will be synchronized to the server and available for data workup. This concludes the training for how to operate SilvAssist Mobile. For more information, you can log into the Inventory Project Manager at SilvAssist.com, mouse over the question mark, go to SilvAssist Documentation, and SilvAssist Mobile. that covers all of the information in this video.